Hey guys, John Sensei here. It is now 7 o'clock Central Time, and that's usually when I try to do these live videos about the JET program application in the US because it's open. Been open almost a month now. It opened on September 28th. Today's record date is October 24th, 2018, and I hope wherever you are that you're having success with your application and getting everything done. However, I spent about 3 years as a JET program coordinator, and of course I was also a JET program participant. Allow me to introduce myself real quick. John Gale, and I was an ALT on the JET program for 3 years. I was a JET coordinator for 3 years, and now I'm a certified Japanese language teacher in Nashville, Tennessee. And if you ever want to take a Japanese lesson with me, all you have to do is hop on over to my website, johnsensei.com. Click on this button to schedule a lesson or consultation. Now, just for a couple more weeks while the JET program application's open, I'm offering in-person and Skype consultations for your JET application and your JET essay. But now I've got a new feature where if you just want to talk and ask questions for about 15 minutes, I've got a free 15-minute Skype consultation to see if I can help you. So all of that's on my website, johnsensei.com. So that's about me, and like I said, I was a JET coordinator for 3 years, and what I can tell you, you guys who are applying for the JET program, and this is going to be very blunt and very direct and not such a happy thing, but I'm going to be honest with you. John Sensei will never lie to you. Most of you are not going to make it. Most of you are not even going to get accepted for the interview. That is how competitive the JET program is. And through my time in my career, I've talked to a lot of people who did not make it. You know, I've trained a lot of JETs and recruited a lot of JETs and helped my own students get on the JET program. But again, I've talked to a lot of people who just didn't make it. And some of them were really great people, and I felt it was kind of unfortunate. I felt like they must have slipped through the cracks in an otherwise pretty standardized and pretty stable system that's been around 30 years of the JET program. So I can't really say anything to that other than it's unfortunate. But a lot of other people, you know, when I talk to them, I can kind of tell. This one's not going to make it. Nope. This one's not for JET. And so in today's video, I kind of wanted to talk about why that is. If I look at all those people who I talked to, and I thought, nope, not this one. I don't think they can do it. They can't do it. For pretty much 100% of that audience, there's been two definite personality challenges they've had. And they're two personality challenges that I think are very correctable, that maybe even I've had in my own life at some point and I've been able to correct. And that perhaps if they could correct these parts of their personality that they're suffering from, that they could in the future be successful JET applicants. And maybe even someone watching this video can catch this and fix that in themselves already. Now, I am going to warn you, I'm going to put about a disclaimer out there. What I'm about to say is going to be very blunt, it's going to be very direct, and there are people out there who will get offended by it. Some people may hear this and it'll sting. But I want you to know I'm trying to help you. I want to establish right now a situation of safety where I want you to know that I really, really want to help you, and that's why I'm saying the things I am. So let me get into it with what I think the two biggest challenges that I've seen in unsuccessful JET applicants are. So the first one, number one, is a victim mentality. Let me make something very clear. This does not refer to the mentality that real victims of crimes or natural disasters or other unfortunate incidents go through. I was robbed myself this summer. It was a terrible experience. It was traumatic. There's a lot of people suffering from Hurricane Michael in the United States. Those people are real victims of a real major circumstance, and this is not what we're talking about. What those people have to go through, the emotional challenges, and sometimes the courage to speak up. So that is completely disconnected from this conversation. I've got a link to the Wikipedia article about what I mean by the victim mentality. This is a real topic in psychology where someone may be subject to the everyday challenges that all of us face, but continually frame that as if they're a victim of these circumstances. So for example, someone could be like, oh, the traffic was so terrible this morning, and that's why I was late. You know, it's not my fault, it's the traffic. Traffic was bad. And yes, traffic gets bad sometimes. But let's say this repeatedly happens and that person always has the same excuse. Oh, not my fault. You know, I'm a victim here. The traffic's bad. Without looking at what they could possibly do to correct the situation themselves. Maybe I need to wake up 15 minutes earlier. So that's what the victim mentality is. It's always blaming someone else, the outside world, for negative circumstances you may be in, without looking at what you can do to correct the situation, what you can do yourself. And I think this is a pretty big issue overall. I think the United States, we're going into an election. I voted yesterday. I hope you all voted or are about to vote soon. This is definitely something the politicians use on us. They try to turn us into a victim and say, hey, if you vote for me, I'll help you. Or if my opponent wins, then you're going to be a victim of these type of circumstances. And I think this is a deeper discussion, not for this video, but the U.S. especially, we are sort of cancered as a society by a victim mentality right now. And this mentality does not exist in other countries and other cultures to the same extent that it does in the U.S. For example, in Japan. I don't think Japan has a victim mentality as bad as we do. Are there people who have it? Yes. But as a society as a whole, I don't think that it's just ruining their public discourse like it is in the United States. So again, this is whenever you think, oh, woe is me, I'm the victim, oh, the copier's not working, oh, my teacher hates me and didn't write a good recommendation for me, and that's why I didn't get on the JET program, oh, this and that, woe is me, I'm the victim, and on and on and on. And this type of discourse, like in a conversation, in a social setting, really turns a lot of people off. And they get kind of cold to the person who's saying, woe is me. And then so to gain further acceptance, they tend to say, woe is me even more. Oh, no, you know, then this happened to me. And my boss is so mean and all of that. And what the victim mentality leads to is a second big challenge that unsuccessful JET applicants are facing, and that is a sense of learned helplessness. So break that down. Learned helplessness. You have learned how to be helpless. And I also have a link to that Wikipedia article right here. So this is, the Wikipedia article is more scientific, that if you attach an electric charge to a rat's food in a maze and it keeps getting shocked when it tries to go to food, and then you take the shock away, it'll still learn that it's helpless to get to the food. It can't get to the food even though the shock is gone. It's learned that. It's learned that helplessness. And that applies to people as well. When we keep telling ourselves that we can't do something. Oh, ride a bicycle in Japan. No, I could never do that. I can't do that. I can't ride a bike. So it's a lot of telling yourself, you've learned to tell yourself you can't do something. And what the learned helplessness actually does is it keeps you away from a lot of other opportunities. You know, if you're not willing to ride a bike in Japan, you're not going to be able to go a whole lot of places unless you rely totally on public transportation. But then these same people will be like, oh, riding the bus in Japan? No. Riding the train? Look, oh gosh, I can't do that. It's so complicated. I just can't get around. I'll just have to sit in my apartment and be alone. And these two things, I think, again, they lead to each other. I think it starts with the victim mentality, someone thinking, oh, woe is me. You know, these are the challenges everybody faces in daily life, no matter who you are, where you are, but oh, woe is me. And that leads to constantly repeating to yourself, oh, I can't do this. I've learned how to be helpless here, and I can't do something. And these are two very detrimental personality traits for someone applying to the JET program. And it comes across in their essays in this format. Usually in their essay, they'll have what I call a disqualifying statement, followed by an excuse to compensate for it. Here is a reason why I suck as a person. Here's a reason why I'm a bad person, but I'm trying to make up for it with this excuse. Here's a reason why I'm not really qualified for the JET program, but, hear me out. I'm going to make up for it with this excuse. When I read an essay for a student or for a consulting client, this is one of the first things I look for, because even I've seen it in people who don't even suffer from the victim mentality mindset, but this sort of pattern still comes up, and I really want to speak against this pattern in the essays. So I had a student who just left for JET this summer, and I was giving her essay a read, and I can't remember the exact wording, but there was a part that went something like this. This is an example of that disqualifying statement with an excuse to compensate. It said something like, some people may say that, as a theater major, I do not have the proper background to be on the JET program. However, ... So there's that disqualifying statement. I'm not qualified to be on JET because I'm a theater major. It was then followed by some sort of excuse to compensate. And I don't even remember what the excuse was, because as soon as I read the disqualifying statement, I kind of tune out. And that's kind of what JET program reviewers will do too. It's like, oh, they've disqualified themselves. I don't really need to pay attention to how they're compensating for it. I don't believe in this person anymore. They don't believe in themselves. And here's another example that I see a lot when people think that you have to have a high Japanese ability to be on the JET program, and they say something like, well, I do not have any formal Japanese language training. I have recently started using an app, and wait, listen to me. I'm trying. I've disqualified myself because I don't speak Japanese, but I'm going to try. I promise you, I'll try. And if you read the JET program eligibility requirements, Japanese language ability is not required to apply or participate on the JET program. I've had great JETs who left under my watch who did not have Japanese ability. I know people who did JET for 3 years and they were great ALTs and they did not have Japanese ability. And so if you put this disqualifying statement out there about Japanese ability, it kind of shows that you didn't read the eligibility requirements. It's not a requirement. Now, this may be something you're concerned about because in the application you've left everything about learning Japanese blank, and if you do feel the need to address it, there are ways to turn weaknesses into strengths. What I first told my student was, I was like, every day is theater. Being an ALT. Like, you have to get up in front of those kids with a smile on your face and be all ginky no matter how bad of a day you're having. So no, like, being a theater major is a strength. Being able to act, that's a huge strength. And so that's what I think she was successful in her later iterations of her essay doing, is positioning the fact that she was a theater major as a strength that can contribute to her performance in the classroom. And again, she got accepted. She left this year. So that's one thing to do. With the Japanese, again, instead of framing it as a disqualifying statement, framing it as a weakness, turn it into a strength. I'm excited about the opportunity to learn Japanese while on the JET program, and I've recently started using an app, blah, 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 blah. So this, again, you're kind of saying the same thing, but with a different tone, from a different approach of like, hey, I'm actually really excited to be able to learn Japanese, without punching in the face that disqualifying statement. Hey, I don't know Japanese. You should disqualify me. I'm going to try to learn, but yeah, go ahead and disqualify me. So the disqualifying statement, excuse to compensate. Scan your essay for this and get rid of it if you find it, because you don't want to help them disqualify you. I was looking around on the frequently asked questions of the JET program USA website, and here's some numbers. What are my chances of being selected for JET? JET program application is a competitive process. I told you so. Roughly 4,500 applications are received each year. This is in the United States. In the United States. Of those, about half of all applications will be invited to be interviewed. So the JET program application reviewers have a very difficult job and a very important responsibility that as a system, it's not all down to one person, but as a system, they go through these 4,500 applications and have to determine the half, the 2,250, that are eligible to interview. You could word that another way and say that they have the responsibility, that they have the high volume job of disqualifying and eliminating 2,250 people. You know, that could be more. They could have to eliminate more. They could have to eliminate 3,000. That could be the higher volume job. So if you have this pattern of the disqualifying statement with the excuse to compensate, you're making that job of finding people to disqualify a lot easier for the reviewers. So just as a hint, don't make their job of having to disqualify people easier for them by making this kind of statement. So now, again, because I do this because I want to help people, I've talked about the victim mentality and the sense of learned helplessness. These are two personality traits that are very possible to correct. And I've had these in my own life, these own thoughts myself, that I was the victim and I couldn't do things. And I've been able to get over them, get on JET, and have a great career afterwards. So I'm speaking from experience that yes, you can change your life for the better and fix these two problems. If anything I've said has stung or hurt anybody, I'm not trying to hurt you, I'm trying to help you. And what I'm going to do now, for me, the biggest fix of these type of issues in my personality or in my own life, I was able to correct through reading. I'm a big believer in reading for self-improvement, and I'm an avid reader myself. So anyone on here who maybe got offended or what I said stung, there's no need to defend your victimhood or anything. I would not recommend it. What I'd recommend is reading these 3 books that I'm about to list up and seeing how you can make your life better and correct these personality issues. The first one is going to be the biggest, sort of the heaviest, and I mean in terms of content. It's actually quite a quick read, and that is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, Viktor E. Frankl. And see, all these books I've read myself and I've applied them to my own life to get over these 2 specific problems, the victim mentality and the sense of learned helplessness. So who was Viktor Frankl? Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist, a Jewish psychiatrist who was in the concentration camps during World War II. And the first half of Man's Search for Meaning is the autobiographical experience in the camps. And, you know, so much of his family were lost and killed, his pregnant wife at the time. And I read this book at a time, at the perfect time, because I was working at an environment that was very, very toxic as a work environment. And the leadership changed and it got even worse. And the head boss, my nickname for him was Stormy, which was short for Stormageddon, because he would just storm around the office yelling at people, "Hey, you do this." And I stole that from a Doctor Who episode. And I was in a really, really bad place, in a really, really dark place, and I was definitely suffering from the victim mentality and the learned helplessness. I was like, man, woe is me, storming around, yelling at people, wanting everybody to do waste their time on all this crazy work, and I can't get my real work done because Stormy's yelling at me. And so I started reading this book. And as I was reading this book, I was like, snap. You know what? This guy was in Auschwitz like I really don't have it that bad. It kind of woke me up to sort of the realities of what other people have had to go through in history and are maybe still going through today. And what was really powerful about Viktor Frankl's story is you could definitely say he was a victim in the concentration camps, but he never let, there's a lot of talk about how he didn't let himself be the victim. That even like if the guards hit him, he was in complete control of how he chose to react to that situation. And so there were a lot of, then the second half of the book is more the psychological concepts behind it all that can help you realize how much that yes, you are in control. That yes, bad things will happen to you and you will suffer, and you need to give meaning to that suffering and grow from it and be stronger. So like the example before, oh, woe is me, you know, the traffic was bad and I was late again. Again, it's like, what can I do? I have a choice. I could choose to wake up earlier. I could choose to accept that responsibility when I talk to my boss and apologize for it, maybe ask for coaching instead of just keep making excuses and pretending I'm the victim. So this is book one. Again, it's a pretty short book, and it's a very powerful read. And most of the other books I recommend, or a lot of the other books I read, they cite Man's Search for Meaning all the time. So one of those books is the next one I'm going to recommend, which is Taking Life Head On by Hal Elrod. And again, here it is. I've read this myself. So if you've never heard of Hal Elrod, let's go over to his website and read about him. So he was a very successful salesman for the Cutco Knife Company. And just going to kind of scroll down here. One night, gets in his car, gets on the interstate, going 70 miles per hour. A drunk driver gets on the same interstate, as in the same lane, at 70 miles per hour, and hits him head on. And there's the car, and there's what Hal looked like. And that's pretty gruesome image that I am just going to actually leave up there for a second, because again, whatever you're going through, whatever degree you think you are of a victim, I'm willing to bet that you didn't end up like that. In fact, it says here how his heart stopped for 6 minutes, so he was dead for 6 minutes. You know, you were late. Big difference, big difference. He's told that he'd never walk again. So you can probably guess how the story goes. He does recover. I mean, he's in a coma and everything for a while, has a long, painful recovery process, but then runs ultra marathons, you know, is a multimillionaire, author, and motivational speaker. And so if he can go from being dead to being a highly successful author and speaker, I think you can get to work on time, get up a little bit earlier, and get those disqualifying statements and those excuses to compensate out of your JET program essay. And this is a really powerful book too, to teach you how to love the life you've got while you live the life you have. That's the big point I took away from it. So there's your second book. And I think by the time you get through these two, again, this is also a very short read. Taking Life Head On is the first half, again, is the autobiographical story of the crash and the recovery, and then later the methods for moving beyond that. So these two, I think will fix most of the issues. If you need one more book, though, that I think will really take you to that extra level and help you be a successful JET program applicant, it is Attitude is Everything by Keith Harrell. And again, here, it's on my Audible. It's on my phone. I've listened to this book myself. And one of the main reasons I want to share this book is because I keep saying in these videos that successful JET applicants have a WIT attitude, W-I-T, whatever it takes attitude. And I stole it from this book. So before I get in trouble, I have to give credit where credit is due. The WIT attitude is from this book. And so the successful JET applicant will do whatever it takes. I think the Jet Program USA on their social media has been very clear about getting official transcripts, just as an example. And this is something I used to see people complain about or try to weasel out of. It's like, oh, I went to community college for a semester, you know, in this other state, and I'm going to have to pay $4 whole to get official transcripts and have them mailed to me. I'm going to try to weasel out of it. And that probably disqualifies them, because the rule very clearly states official transcripts from all colleges and universities attended. And you know, that again is the sort of victim mentality. Oh, I'm a victim because I'm going to have to pay $4 because I'm going to have to get community college transcripts shipped, and I'm helpless. I'm helpless in this situation. It's too much money. It's too much money. Whereas the successful JET applicant doesn't try to weasel out of things, doesn't complain about spending the money. They just do whatever it takes. That's their attitude, and that's part of the reason why they are successful. Speaking of whatever it takes, I want to again tell you guys about this workshop we have coming up this weekend. Saturday, October 27th, 2018, 1 p.m. Central Time at the Tennessee Language Center in Nashville, Tennessee. This is going to be a great workshop, great content, completely free and open to anybody applying to the JET program. What we're going to do is we're going to deep dive into the application itself, answer any of your questions you may have, try to clear some things up, have a lot of great discussion. And so that's why we're really hoping a lot of people come to this to contribute to that discussion about the JET program and what it needs and how to position yourself as a competitive applicant. And then at the end, what we're going to do is we're going to take everybody's essay, so bring your essay, print it out, and applicants are going to trade essays and give each other feedback. Now, those of us JET alumni who are volunteering to be there, we can't read your essays, so this will just be a peer review with feedback and try to make that a lot stronger essay. I gave you something you can check for. You know, you could show up, check, make sure that someone doesn't have those disqualifying statements with the excuses to compensate, or get that out of your own essay. So I know this was a kind of difficult video for me as I was writing things out and doing the research, because I knew some people would get offended and some of the topics are pretty sensitive. But again, I really want to help people, and so I hope you found this helpful. And that's why we're doing this workshop too, is because I really want to help people with their JET program applications. So if there's any way I could help you, hop on over to my website, johnsensei.com. Again, that's where you can schedule a free call or a consultation with me. And if there's anything you'd like to hear me talk about in future videos, just comment at this video or tweet it to me at Mr. John Sensei. Hope we stay in touch. Wishing you the best of luck with your JET program application, and I will see you in the next video.